All set, Rob.
Excellent. New York Racing Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 102, provides that the New York State Gaming Commission shall consist of 7 members appointed by the governor by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. 4 members confirmed by the New York State Senate are necessary to afford the commission an ability to establish quorum and to undertake action. This present meeting of the commission is now called to order. This meeting is conducted by video conferencing in 2 locations, New York and Schenectady. Both locations have been appropriately noticed and accommodate public attendance. Ms. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
John Crotty. Sylvia Hamer.
Here.
Martin Mack.
Here.
Peter Machete.
Here.
Brian O'Dwyer.
Here.
Marissa Shorenstein.
Here.
Jerry Skurnick.
Here.
Ms. Secretary, please have the record reflect that a quorum of qualified members are present, thus enabling the transaction of business. Please note that Commissioners Mack and Machete are in Schenectady. Bilateral visual and oral communications between New York and Schenectady have been established. Chairman?
I'm happy to recognize and welcome my good friend Marty Mack to the commission. Commissioner Mack was confirmed by the State Senate on June the 5th, 2024, after being nominated by our governor. He has served in local and state governments for several decades as the mayor of Cortland, the Cortland County Attorney, the Cortland County Assistant District Attorney. He served in the administration of 3 attorneys general as Executive Deputy Attorney General, where he managed and supervised the legal work of the Attorney General's 13 regional offices. He served on the Executive Chamber as a member of the senior staff for Governors Spitzer, Patterson, and now Governor Hochul. He was Deputy Secretary for Intergovernmental Affairs for Spitzer and Patterson, and Appointment Secretary for Governors Patterson and Hochul. He currently serves as Governor's Hochul representative on the Board of Trustees of Cornell University. Both professionally and personally, I am absolutely delighted to welcome Commissioner Mack to the commission, and am very, very pleased and look forward to many, many years of wonderful collegiality together. Marty, you're very welcome indeed.
Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate serving your leadership.
With that, we will go on to the minutes of the commission meeting conducted on May 20th and have been provided to the members in advance. Any of the members have any edits, corrections, or amendments? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, please let the record reflect that the minutes were accepted. Now, I hear, as we do at every meeting, we have a report from our Executive Director. Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Today I'd like to touch upon 3 items: the recently conducted Belmont Stakes Racing Festival, recent legislation that passed both houses at the end of the session, and a forthcoming gaming facility location board meeting. First, the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival was conducted at Saratoga Racecourse since our last meeting. The Belmont Stakes Day card was highlighted by Dornock's victory in the Grade 1 Belmont Stakes. An all-sources handle of $125.7 million was realized, which is a NYS record for a Belmont card in a non-Triple Crown year, a 6.3% increase over the previous non-Triple Crown record, which was set in 2023. On-track handle for the 14-race card, which included 6 Grade 1 races among 9 total stakes races, was $14.8 million. Handle was also significant on the 2 preliminary days as well. On Thursday, all sources wagering reached 18.1 million, which eclipsed the previous Thursday mark of a racing festival of 10.3 million, which was set in 2017. And Friday's handle reached 38.5 million, more than $12 million higher than the previous record, which was set in 2023. Additionally, the impact reverberated beyond the racetrack, which saw a sold-out crowd of 50,000 attendees, and a reported economic impact of more than $50 million for the city of Saratoga Springs. As Governor Hochul, Chairman O'Dwyer, and Commissioners Prati, Hamer, and Machete can personally attest, the festival was a great showcase of New York racing. On the final day of the 2024 legislative session, the Houses passed a bill that purports to expedite the additional licensing process and prevent delays by providing specific deadlines for various steps in the determination. Specifically, the legislation would obligate a filed application from bidders no later than August 31st, 2024, mandate that a community advisory committee consultant be hired that same date, require that community advisory committees be established no later than October 30th, 2024, and require a community advisory committee to make a vote by February 27th, 2025 as to whether to allow an application to proceed. Under the proposal, the Gaming Facility Allocation Board would then have until December 31st, 2025 to vote on the recommendations, but the board could allow itself an additional 30 days deliberation to January 31st of 2026 upon good cause. Also under the proposal, the date for action by the Commission would be a moving target, being 30 days following the vote of the Gaming Facility Allocation Board, or an additional 30 days upon good cause. This means that the earliest a vote could occur would be January 31st of 2026, or as late as March 31st, 2026, depending upon the Gaming Facility Allocation Board and the several possibilities for good cause extensions. Practically, as compared with the timeline I outlined in our March 25th, 2024 meeting, all publicly announced potential applicants are expected to have completed the state environmental quality review or the city environmental quality review processes by the end of the second quarter of 2025. This is the same time frame that the New York City Department of City Planning has advised that the 4 publicly announced applications would emerge from the ULURP process. Staff envisioned an application deadline by June 30th, 2025, with the establishment of community advisory committees immediately thereafter, and Gaming Facility Location Board decisions and commission license coordination before the end of 2025, nearly 1 year prior to the state and MTA's booking of license fees. Providing adequate time for potential applicants to obtain these required approvals and make necessary changes to their proposals before submission improves, in our mind, the likelihood of multiple bidders. It also, the timeline we have proposed ensures that the public, CACs, and Gaming Facility Location Board are reviewing and considering up-to-date proposals that accurately reflect a final project following mitigation of concerns raised during the state and city seeker processes. The governor will consider the legislation when it's presented to her and make a determination, and obviously we will follow whatever process the governor directs that the law should reflect. Finally, the Gaming Facility Location Board will be conducting a meeting on Thursday, June 27th in Harlem. My understanding of the agenda is that it will include an update and formalization of a request for application submission deadline, amendment of the request for applications to eliminate the round 2 answer trigger, reproposal of 2 previously proposed rules which have expired, and consideration of a resolution permitting remote meeting participation under certain circumstances. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. New York State Racing Parimutuel Wagering Breeding Law, Section 10419, authorizes the Commission to promulgate rules and regulations that it deems necessary to carry out its responsibilities. To that regard, the Commission will from time to time promulgate rules and regulations and amendments pursuant to the State Administrative Procedure Act. Today we have 2 rules for adoption and consideration. Mr. Williams, to the first item.
The first item for Commission consideration regards the adoption of claiming rule revisions in thoroughbred racing, which was deferred at the May meeting following questions by a commissioner. Recall the proposed rule to amend thoroughbred claiming regulations was developed after meetings with the Finger Lakes and NYRA and the horsemen's organizations at each association. The proposal would allow claimants who have raced on a circuit within 120 days, which would increase the number of owners qualified to make claims, allow 30 days, additional days for holders of a certificate of eligibility who have lost a competition by lot for a claimed horse, providing an owner with an opportunity to claim when the owner has not been successful in claiming a horse within the first 30 days of a race meeting, reduces from 30 to 20 days the restriction against running a claimed horse, again for a claiming price less than 25% greater than the claiming price, establishes a further 10-day period in which a claimed horse may start for a price equal to the claiming race or claiming price, and extend from 30 days to 60 days the prohibition against running a claimed horse outside of New York State, with an exception being for horses claimed at Finger Lakes Racetrack, or in the case of a horse that may run elsewhere after 30 days from the end of the Finger Lakes racing season. A notice of proposed rulemaking was published in the February 7th, 2024 State Register, meaning the public comment period expired on April 8th. 2 comments were received, one from NYRA, which expressed support for the proposal, and the second from a licensed thoroughbred owner, Christopher Mancusi, who also expressed support for the proposal. At the last meeting, a commissioner had inquired as to whether the run-back language applicable to claiming races could be viewed as weakening previously amended claiming standards. Practically, the most recent changes to the claiming rules were the result of findings and recommendations made within the 2012 New York State Task Force on Equine Health and Safety report. One report recommendation regarded first-to-price ratios, which were set by the former Racing and Wagering Board at a particular limitation, and then later eased by the Commission following a few years' experience, so long as a deviation request made by a racing association was approved in writing by the equine medical director. That rule did not, however, implicate the speed of run-back following a claim. The other substantial regulatory change made in response to the report regarded voidable claiming. That rule likewise does not implicate the speed of a run-back following a claim. Staff continues to recommend that the Commission adopt this rulemaking.
On the telephone today is our equine medical director, Dr. Scott Palmer. There was some question at the last meeting about whether this proposed rule would have any adverse health impact on the horses. And I thought, pursuant to our executive director's suggestion, that we should hear from Dr. Palmer as to his opinion as to that matter. Dr. Palmer.
Thank you, Chairman. It's important to understand that this is a subject that's under constant revision and consideration. We've been looking at these voidable claims, enhanced purse races, for quite some time now, and I think that the data right now is something I would like to report back to you on at a future meeting that we have collected so far. But I think the only relevant information I have to this that would give me any concern would be that we know that horses that are in claiming races are at increased risk for catastrophic injury. That's the basis of a number of epidemiologic studies on the subject. There has also been some looking at the days in which that risk factor is in play. And the research that's been published by Dr. Tim Parkin indicates that after a horse is claimed, that the horses that increase risk for injury for a period of 30 days after the claim, and so much as during that period of time, it's a time where it's a matter of getting acquainted with the horse, evaluating the horse, and making sure it's okay to race again. And so I think that any change in the rules that allows a claimed horse to race back less than 30 days potentially could increase the risk for injury if that horse was not well evaluated in that period of time before he's raced again. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. It certainly could happen within 20 days, but I think that it's important that we emphasize that that period of time be used constructively and aggressively to examine the horse and make sure that it's fit to race again before they enter the horse.
Thank you, Dr. Palmer. Having heard from Dr. Palmer and having thoroughly reviewed this over 2 meetings, I now call for a vote. Do any of the commissioners have any comment on the claiming rules amendment? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt the rule?
So moved.
Motion, second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It's all in favor, everybody, the motion carries unanimously. Mr. Williams.
If I can add there, I have spoken to Commissioner Crotty, who suggested had he been present at today's meeting, he would have voted affirmatively to adopt this rule today.
Thank you, Commissioner.
For the
And I
next
wanted to
item,
thank, well, before we did that, I did want to thank Commissioner Crowley in absentia for at least giving us the opportunity to review this rule and get Dr. Palmer's opinion as to the safety of the horses. I think that was important. So the next item, Mr.
for Commission consideration is the adoption of a consensus rulemaking to update our address from 1 Broadway Center in Schenectady to 354 Broadway in Schenectady. Our address appears in 15 different sections of rules. Additionally, staff proposed the elimination of an unnecessary subdivision in Lottery Rule 5000.4. A notice of proposed rulemaking was published in the April 10th, 2024 State Register, meaning the public comment period expired on June 10th. No public comments were received. Staff recommends that the Commission adopt this rulemaking.
I'm astonished that we've gotten no public comments on this particular rule. Any questions on the adoption of the rule? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt the rule?
So moved.
Commissioner Skurnick, second.
Second.
Commissioner Hamer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'd like to, as we go on to new business, I would like to raise an item of new business with the permission of my fellow commissioners regarding the designation of a chair for the Gaming Facility Location Board. As many of you know, New York City Racing Pari-Mutuel Wagering and Betting Law 109A1 provides for the commission to select 5 members and name the chair of the board. In consultation with our executive director and others, Commissioner, a member of the board, I move that we name Vicky Bean as chair of the Racing and Gaming Facility Location Board. We use the right term. Any discussion in that regard? Hearing that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Will you please inform Professor Bean of her elevation?
I will do so.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, there were 2 items on the agenda that I had asked our executive director to have Director Park address. I'm looking forward to hearing his comments both on the internship program and on the new advertising campaign we're doing for the lottery. Lee?
Thank you, Chairman. So with regards to the internship program, just to provide a very broad overview, the new New York Leaders Student Internship Program is run by the New York State Department of Civil Service. They handle all internship opportunities for state agencies, authorities, and so forth. And they have a portal for applicants to submit into. It's very easy to use. It's very intuitive. Users are able to search by agency, by field of interest. And the Gaming Commission, we, through our Department of Human Resources, will be putting together some internship opportunities throughout our various divisions, looking particularly at our counsel's office, lottery security, lottery marketing, advertising, communications. There's some opportunities potentially within the gaming division, and in the horse racing, and maybe even in the veterinarian space. Obviously, the main challenge is making sure there's proper supervisory and task structures in place. But the other update on this is that we would be looking to offer paid internships, probably at $16 an hour for undergraduate and $19 an hour for graduate applicants. And this would be open to all undergraduate and graduate programs at colleges and universities throughout the state, as well as for New York State residents studying elsewhere. And the new New York Leaders Student Internship Program, which if you just Google that, it'll show up, really provides a very good overview of how the program works. So there is already an existing infrastructure. We just need to take advantage of it, and we will do so.
That's really very exciting. We're looking forward to having this summer, having a number of student interns, both here in New York and obviously in our Schenectady office, and maybe even at some of the other facilities. I think it will give. There's so many different things that this commission does, from to taking care of the horses to being in marketing the lottery, that it will provide a really excellent opportunity for young people to get an education. And I'm particularly looking forward to, frankly, having people here in the Harlem office and the Lottery Commission to be able to do an internship here, close to home for many of them. I'm really excited about it, and I thank you, both our executive director and Mr. Park, for working on this for me and making sure that we'll have this ready by next summer. Really exciting for us. Leave for your next.
Yes, with regards to the lottery's aid education campaign, so we are in the process. This launched back earlier this year. The Division of Lottery has taken a wholesale campaign to remind New Yorkers that all lottery proceeds go to New York's public schools. Initial research showed that while 40% of people think they know where the money goes, only about a quarter of that are able to accurately identify that education is the beneficiary. So that's our baseline. Since then, we've been working with McCann, our advertising partner, to conduct research and creative testing, without getting too much into the weeds of advertising jargon, but this is basically doing the field work to build a paid ad campaign to debut in the fall to coincide with back to school. To, again, remind New Yorkers that every time they spend $1 on a lottery ticket, even if they lose, that revenue is going towards education. A number of components are already underway. Social media has launched and has been on various different platforms. The paid part of it, we do have a component with Link NYC, the kiosk that you see throughout the city, that launched last month. Additionally, we have a sponsorship at the Summer Stage in New York City. So the signage with the New York Lottery logo and the benefiting public schools messaging is appearing there as well. And again, the results of the research and the polling that we're doing will feed the direction of the paid advertising campaign that will launch in more robust form come this fall.
That's great. Anybody have any questions? Well, as all of us on the commission know, that since my appointment as chairman, I have ceased contributing to New York State education. So, and we all have. So, but anyway.
Other than our regular taxes.
Other than our regular taxes. Now, a few messages that I want to make you aware of. As you're aware, I frequently use my time at the commission to provide you an update on the activities of the Thoroughbred Breeding and Development Fund and the Agricultural Horse Breeding Development Fund. Today I have an announcement that intersects both funds and the commission and the operations of this commission. Recently, New York State parimutuel racing breeding law, both funds now contribute for the care of retired horses, this aftercare, from the collection of fines assessed pursuant to Section 382 of the Agriculture Markets Law, contributions made pursuant to 2009 and 2090 of the tax law, which regard to an income tax checkoff to benefit retired and rescued horse races, and contributions made to have a gift with gifts to the with horse aftercare. To put this into effect, the law obligates the Commission to establish an advisory board to assist in evaluating proper use of the monies when the funds consider distributing such allocations. And for those who don't know, there are a number of aftercare facilities in the state of New York that provide aftercare for those horses, both thoroughbred and standardbred, who have retired from their racing careers. Specifically, the Commission is guided to appoint representatives of thoroughbred and standardbred owners and breeders, animal protection organizations with expertise in the care of retired and rescued horses. So we will be forming that advisory fund shortly. Accordingly, I am requesting anyone interested in serving on this advisory board to meet, and those who meet the qualifications, to express their interest either by calling Kirsten Buckley at 518-388-3400 or sending an email with a resume to info@gaming.newyork.gov. And we plan to have this going up and running hopefully by our next meeting. So if anyone who is listening here or any of the media that is listening, it will be put on our site, we would ask that you expedite getting your interest into either of those two areas, that we might be able to evaluate that and make an appointment by the Commission at our next meeting. I also want to come up and give you a few things of what we've been doing since the meeting. During the meetup at Saratoga, Commissioner Hamer and I took a very long trip around the backstretch. Thanks to Mr. Lowenstein, I thank you for your work in that regard. We spent a lot of time looking, and I'm happy to report, as she is, I'm sure, that the new facility, the new residency for the workers at Saratoga is proceeding apace, and we expect that to be open within the next couple of months, hopefully by the meet, but probably not. But certainly it's there and it's up and it's running and it's a very impressive facility. Mr. Williams and I have been regularly meeting with the racetrack chaplaincy and have had a series of phone calls with them, and we have set up a regular schedule so that we could discuss with them any of their concerns about the welfare of the backstretch workers, and we can keep the chaplaincy up to date on the many things that this commission is doing to make sure that the backstretch workers are protected and that they're given decent opportunities and decent jobs. Thank you. I'm really looking forward, as I said before, to the new campaigns on education. I think it's really important for us as a commission to inform New Yorkers that when they play the lottery, I like to say, when they lose, their children win. And the fact that this money goes directly to the school districts, and many of which provide some of the extra courses like music and art or athletics that the school districts can now afford to give because of that money, is really important that New Yorkers know what's going on. All right. I wanted to take the opportunity. It's very important for us to be out and to explain, which to many people is a very complicated and a very involved process in terms of what we're going through now, in terms of the new casinos and the licensing provisions and the intricacies of the laws. To that point, I want to thank Commissioner Skurnick for being out there. He seems to be doing yeoman's work throughout the city of New York at all these public meetings, explaining the law and what the commission is doing and what it cannot do. But he was out again, and undoubtedly we'll be calling on him many more times in the future. So, Commissioner, thank you for your work in that regard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually have enjoyed these excursions, and I've gotten good feedback from our fellow New Yorkers about what they think about casinos in general and in their neighborhood.
New Yorkers are never reluctant to express their opinions, Commissioner. I can assure you that. I also want to say that we've also been, and with our executive director, been really vigilant on the excesses of internet gambling, sports betting in particular. We've been out front, as I indicated before, on banning prop bets. We're dealing with other commissioners throughout in college betting. I really want to be very, very. It's a very difficult area, and the whole question of the type of bets to allow and not allow. Our staff is really on top of that, and I want to thank them for their work on that, because the work, there's literally hundreds of different bets that come into our office regularly, and they have to make a decision as to what they consider is appropriate and not. And they're just doing a tremendous job under tremendous pressures, and I really want to thank our staff for that really important issue that we're doing. Obviously, it is inuring greatly to the benefit of the Exchequer of New York, but at the same time, we really have to be careful that the excesses of that, which unfortunately some of the operators are pushing, have got to be checked, and the vigilance of our staff in doing that is really very appreciated. Finally, I wanted to talk about, very briefly, new legislation came down in regard to assuring that our equine athletes, both in standardbred and thoroughbred, are not sold for slaughter, and which is really a very disturbing thing. Mr. Williams and I have been working with the two funds and the State Agricultural Department under Commissioner Ball to start work on assuring that we have representatives at the auctions to make sure that the law is observed. It's a new law, and we're still working on it, but it's again an important aspect of the work we do. Although we're not directly involved, we are certainly involved as people who understand the horse racing industry. I want to commend Mr. Williams in particular for his work in this regard, because he's put together quite an interdisciplinary approach to this, which I think eventually, and I think when I say eventually, I say soon, will pay dividends in terms of us making sure that at least these auctions are closely observed, to make sure that no horse from New York, the object is that no horse from New York gets sent to slaughter in Canada or elsewhere, and are allowed to have a natural death after having spent their time in the races working for us. That is our thing. I also want to finally thank everybody for what was my fellow commissioners that were up there, that Commissioner Pride, Machete, and Amer. We had a great time in Saratoga. It was a wonderful time. Great to see the horses running. Great to have the fact that there was no horses that were hurt, and importantly, the tremendous amount of good and economic great goodness that went to the people of Saratoga and the surrounding areas for that area. It was a great time, and it was very important for both the industry and the state of New York, and we were most appreciative that our governor not only showed up to give out the trophy, but had a breakfast for all of us and the horse racing industry to show her support for the work of this commission and the racing industry as a whole. With that, I think you've all heard enough today. I promised Commissioner Shorenstein I'd get her out of here, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.